What's going on, Knuckleheads? Sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty today, but looks like we've straightened it out. This is George with Fighters Rep, and this is our Joanna Jedrzejczyk versus Michelle Waterson Preview Prediction. It's going down tomorrow night at Fight Night 161. The UFC is going to be bringing it one more time, and we've got a women's strawweight fight in the main event that you are not going to want to miss. Knuckleheads, trust me on this one. It's going to be an all-action stand-up fight between Joanna Jedrzejczyk and Michelle Waterson in the strawweight division. Now, we're going to real quick look at the tail of the tape. We're going to then tell you what we believe is going to happen in this fight, give you our prediction, and then we hope to get your opinions. We'll probably also touch on some of the other fights on the card. It's looking like a pretty fun card. And maybe get into some boxing news immediately after that. But first and foremost, let's go ahead and tackle the tail of the tape for this fight. We've got the 32-year-old Joanna Jedrzejczyk. She's a bit of I believe, more of a weathered fighter than Michelle Waterson is at the age of 33. And I'm saying that because even though Michelle Waterson has had more fights, I just feel like Joanna Jedrzejczyk has been in a lot of very tough battles, and I think that despite the one age difference, or the 1 year difference with Michelle Waterson being slightly older, I do think that Joanna has probably aged a little bit worse than Michelle Waterson has at this point in her career. I'll go ahead and expand on that in a bit once we talk about the momentum, which I think is very important in this fight and how they've performed in their last few fights. But we're going to move on to height now. So obviously, with regards to height, Joanna is quite a bit taller than Michelle Waterson. And if you watch the face-off, which was slightly aggressive, slightly entertaining, you can see that she was slightly taller, or rather significantly taller, not slightly taller. And she's listed as 5'5" or 5'6", depending on where you're looking, compared to Michelle Waterson, who's only 5'2", a very short young lady that's going to have to deal with Joanna Jedrzejczyk's height and reach advantage. And that's the next thing we're going to look at. 65.5 inches in reach for Joanna Jedrzejczyk versus Michelle Waterson, 62 inches. Again, it's not looking good from a physical standpoint when you look at the height and the reach for Michelle Waterson. However, I think the most important thing about this fight that we need to look at is the fact that the momentum for these two fighters has been a lot different. It's been a lot different. Now, when I'm saying momentum, what do I mean? Well, despite the fact that Joanna Jedrzejczyk is the favored fighter in this fight, okay? The odds are in her favor. Despite that, though, she has not performed in the same fashion that Michelle Waterson has in her previous few outings. And I'm going to go ahead and go through it with you guys just so you know what I'm talking about here. So Joanna Jedrzejczyk, in her last 4 bouts, has lost 3 versus Michelle Waterson, who in her last 4 bouts has lost 1. Another key difference is Michelle Waterson is coming off a win against Karolina Kowalkiewicz, and Joanna Jedrzejczyk is coming off a loss to Valentina Shevchenko. Now, that's definitely not something to hang your head about, but if you look at the last 4 fights, Joanna has lost 3 of the last 4. 2 of those were to Rose Namajunas. She got a decision win over Tecia Torres, and then lost to Shevchenko. Michelle Waterson, on the other hand, has rattled off 3 wins in a row. And they've both beaten Karolina Kowalkiewicz, but they both beat her by unanimous decision. So I think that the fight's going to be comparable. I just see Michelle Waterson, even though she's the underdog, I just see her as, on this 3-fight win streak, being able to pull this thing off. Now, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me. And Joanna is really a dog in there. She really is a dog in there. But I just feel like Michelle Waterson has improved drastically in her last few fights, especially since her loss to Rose. I think she's improved quite a bit. Whereas with Joanna, I feel like she's sort of stagnated. And she's been trying to find herself going up and down different divisions. And it's not stable. And I don't think it's a good look to be, changing divisions from strawweight to flyweight and then coming back to strawweight again. I just don't think it's gonna turn out well for Joanna. And despite the fact, that we know she's a proven striker, she's very tough. She comes to fight. She's very aggressive. I just think that Michelle Waterson at this point, with the momentum she's got behind her with these 3 wins against Courtney Casey, Felice Herrig, Karolina Kowalkiewicz, that she's just trending upward, right? And then Joanna hasn't fought since December, whereas Michelle just fought in March, at the end of March. I mean, March 30th, so you can basically consider it April. So for me, knuckleheads, even though in their prime, I guess, or at their peak form, I would have said that maybe Joanna would edge this fight. I think Michelle Waterson has a real chance to edge this fight this time around. And it's definitely something. It's definitely something about that 3-fight win streak and the way she's looked at her past few fights that's just got me favoring Michelle Waterson in this fight. Now, there's a couple other good fights on the card, a couple other intriguing fights on the card. We've got Kron Gracie going up against Cub Swanson at featherweight, with Kron being the minus 170 favorite, it looks like, on online. I don't even want to say where this is at, but he's got a minus 170 favorite. And just if you guys are looking in the sports books, Michelle Waterson is a plus 300. Joanna Jedrzejczyk a minus 370 favorite. So, I mean, I think this is a good, if you're near a sports book, it might be a good bet to put a little money on Waterson. I don't think you lose anything. If you put a little money on Waterson, she's got a great chance of winning this fight. But yeah, so Kron Gracie is going to be taking on Cub Swanson. Again, Cub Swanson is another one that's sort of trending. I feel he's trending downward. I feel like, he's been losing his past few fights. Kron Gracie, looked good in his last fight. And, I definitely can understand why they would have Kron Gracie as the minus 170 favorite in that fight. We've also got Nico Price versus James Vick on this card. That's a fight that I'm interested in. And more than anything, I have this weird sympathy for James Vick, man. He used to look like a world beater after he sort of went on this losing streak where unfortunately he's been getting knocked out left and right. I mean, if we look at his record, in his last 3 fights, he's lost all 3. 2 were by a KO. 1 was by a decision to Paul Felder. And he's just, I don't know. I don't know if his chin is giving out on him. I don't know what's happened. He got knocked out against Beneil Dariush back in June of 2016. He got knocked out. Then he went on a 4-fight winning streak. And then he lost 3 in a row. He got starched by Justin Gaethje in the first round. Paul Felder beat him by unanimous decision. And then Dan Hooker starched him in the first round. And Dan Hooker's no joke either. Really enjoyed watching him in the last event there. But yeah, I mean, James Vick is a guy that I sort of I have a little sympathy for. You know, he's been struggling. He's been struggling, and he's going to be going up against Nico Price, who is definitely favored for a reason here. I mean, he's also been, a little bit erratic with his wins and his losses. He was stopped in the first round by Abdul Razak Al Hassan, but then he beat Tim Means by KO, but then he lost by TKO. So I mean, this is a fair fight, that the UFC is putting together, and something I really appreciate. Unlike the Usyk versus Chaz Witherspoon fight that's going to be going down in boxing tomorrow. This is a lot more of a fair fight, and I really look forward. To this card. No huge glaring stars on this card, but it should be a night of exciting fights. Eric Anders is on the card as well. He's going to be fighting Gerald Meerschaert. I like watching Eric Anders fight. He comes to bring it. He comes to knock people out. So, I think overall we'll have a pretty entertaining card. I just, I don't see any huge star power, but that's okay. This is fantastic work by the UFC. This is what they do. They put these fights together to get people interested in the sport, and to get people invested in some of these fighters that are on these undercards and on these slightly lesser cards, and I have no problem with it at all. In fact, I enjoy it very much. So knuckleheads, that's pretty much all I have for this one. I do think Michelle Waterson is going to pull off the slight upset here. I don't like the way Joanna has looked. I don't like her switching weight classes. I don't think she's really evolved that much as a fighter, especially recently. And, I'm just going to have to go. I'm going to have to go with Michelle Waterson. So, tell me what you guys think. Subscribe. Leave your comments below. Feel free to donate in the super chat or in the links below. Get your Fighters Rep gear below. The majority of anything you purchase or do on the channel obviously gets funneled back into Fighters Rep Promotions, the most exciting combat sport in the world, where we're building some of the best young strikers in the world. It's an all-striking promotion, unified rules kickboxing. We air our fights live here, so anything you guys do in the links below, it's going to benefit Fighters Rep and these young fighters. And also, even if you buy anything from the Amazon affiliate link below, whether it's the hand wraps in the link or anything else, after clicking that link, we'll get credit for it, and it's much appreciated. So that's all I have for this one, Knuckleheads. Really appreciate you guys. Have a great night.